And thank you for joining me. My name is Devin along Madgy. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're keeping up the great work. There is absolutely a great work that constantly is begging us to keep it up. What is this great work? It is a process of undoing. Undoing a split condition within ourselves. At some point in time or out of time, in some place or nowhere at all, it doesn't matter. A fallen consciousness was produced. And now we find ourselves in a very dreamlike scenario in which opposites war with one another. Wholeness has been forgotten about temporarily in order to divide oneself into what we could conceptualize as an original state and a fallen one. And of course, there's a gradient of quality between the two. Nevertheless, there is absolutely this voice inside that never lets us go unless we are actively seeking to glue ourselves back together. There is a kind of schizophrenia within the soul. It's like there's two of us. There's the piece of us that is oh so secure, oh so relaxed, oh so detached, oh so intuitive. There's a being in us, we could say, a true self, who is not contracted but quite expanded because it is constantly allowing the intuitive flow of true intelligence to guide. However, the fallen state, the fallen consciousness, this artificial intelligence, we might call it, is not based on intuition. It is based on analysis. It is based on logic. The fallen consciousness is very hungry, craves some kind of satisfaction. And yet the fallen aspects of ourselves do not find, they only seek. It's a perpetual nowhere we're trying to go to. Of course, if we do not intuit what is, then we're going to erroneously believe we have to find our sustenance. So, these two aspects of ourselves are always in a bit of a duel. Every now and then we slip into this oh so relaxed state in which we don't wish to control, but we wish to just be a part of the landscape when we are embodied in this unbroken unity. We feel centered. We don't feel as if we're up here or down there. No heaven, no hell. There is simply a unified whole that is, because of its unity, regenerative. But we oftentimes forget. We fool ourselves into thinking this is not a true state, or it's simply a fleeting one. And then we might revert back to a stressed attitude, one that longs, just longs. I need, I want, I hope, I dream. Oftentimes these hopes, these dreams, these cravings appear as our friends. The fallen state might feel monstrous at times, but it usually feels quite natural. It feels as if we're just trying to get what will satisfy. We're just playing a game of become happy, become fulfilled. But this is kind of the irony in the search for wholeness or unity. It doesn't have to be searched for because it already is. The only thing that prevents us from tapping into this consciousness is a lack of practice and a resistance to the immense calm that overtakes us when we finally submit to this true self, to this inner child. Why would we rebel against a state that feels so natural? Well, there's many, many reasons we could come up with, one of which is we've been brainwashed. We've been told false stories about ourselves, about our minds, about our relationships, about the world, about our place in it. We've taken on the stories of this world, the various narratives that let us know we are simply pawns, or we're simply animals, or we're simply in a game of dog eat dog, or there's nothing intrinsically magical about reality. We really are talking about magic. The intuition is where the magic lies, and it's not magic that can necessarily be displayed to a crowd of spectators. The magic resides in our ability to paint our experience with it. Our mind's eye is heart's eye too, but the mind's eye is the artist's paintbrush. All is mind became a pretty popular principle on the internet a few years ago. Hermeticism gained popularity, I think, for the first time since the early 1900s. This principle of all is mind, as within, so without, that input produces output, gained traction because the current times we're living in is acting for each and every living soul as a mirror. So, walking through this strange maze called Earth, eventually helps us grow some suspicion. We look around, and we look inside, and we recall what we've been taught about life and ourselves, and we go, I don't think so. We go, I think this is not accurate. And even though I'm the odd man out, it's difficult to buy into this reality. The biggest trap we fall into is that we are separate from the very experience we're having. It's a very immature perspective. There's me, there's all that is happening inside, and then there are the things I experience, which deal with other beings who aren't me, and therefore they have free rein to mess with me or to make things difficult. There's me, and then there's this outer world of confusion, of conflict. But a little bit of honesty will inform each and every one of us that the war outside is quite on par with the war inside. The screams and shouts and the cries and the bellows of fear that are constantly on display on the stage of life, these are the same screams and shouts and admissions of terror that we feel inside, because there's a division. So the living soul's journey, the great work, is all about reeling back in all of these fallen aspects, everything that has left the intuitive space, everything that has explored in curiosity all of the aspects of consciousness that are free from this wholeness. It is our job as living souls to piece ourselves together and determine what about our conduct, what about our approach towards reality leads to more of a fallen quality. It is quality of consciousness that should let us know where we are spiritually. I think this is very good news. It means we don't have to guess. We don't have to wonder what needs attention in our spiritual lives. Sometimes we might claim, I have no idea what to do. I don't know where to go from here. To know where to go from here, all we have to do is observe the next moment we feel uncentered. And truthfully understand what leads to that state. How do I approach myself or others or reality? What kind of intelligence do I plug into when things, for instance, feel ugly or difficult or lacking in joy? And we find that we are the drivers of our experience. That we are not imprisoned by current events or by anything else in relation to how we can develop ourselves. There is this strange idea, I think a lot of us have felt at times, that if only the world resolved itself, if only everything immediately turned into a paradise, then I'd be okay. But because the world is so uncertain, in flux, untruthful perhaps, how can I, an inhabitant of this world, find any release? Well, don't be so sure you are an inhabitant of this world, dear living soul. Don't be so sure this is not a dream. Don't be so sure that we're not being cosmically conned by ourselves in order to accomplish this great work. And besides, we don't even have to believe in some overarching divine plan to recognize it feels better to inhabit this free-flowing intuitive space. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we shut down the connection between us and pure truth, the intuition, baby. the mental and emotional worlds we can inhabit aren't always our friends. In fact, if we want to frame this experience as some kind of ploy against humanity to turn them into like New World Order zombies or something, or extract their energy, then the means by which that diabolical plan is accomplished is through inspiring people to abandon their own intelligence, their own attention. You do this by stimulating false worlds in the mind and in the emotions. So, if we want to be free from this plan, then it's probably a good idea to examine what narratives we perpetuate in our lives, what worlds we widen in our mind, mental and emotional. The name of the game, when it comes to energy extraction, is forfeit your own peace in exchange for mental, emotional stimulation. And this is why television has been so popular, movies, streaming services. This is why the internet is where a lot of people spend the majority of their time or their recreational hours. It's because we have the capability to distract ourselves and play dumb and just plug into all of these flimsy mental and emotional worlds that end up influencing our quality of consciousness even after we've consciously abandoned those worlds from entering the here and now. So this is really a way to say we should really pay attention of what we're paying attention to, and we should really pay attention of what we're paying attention to and how what we're paying attention to bankrupts our ability to cash in. Our beautiful experience in exchange for intuition. To say in another way, if we are preoccupied with all of these conflicts, all of these dramas, all of this content, all of this information, then we may just be enhancing the fallen aspects of ourselves. We may just be creating a further divide between the intuitive intelligence, the true self, the inner child, the original being, the who, between that being and one that simply finds no rest. So let us, as living souls, piece ourselves back together. The fragmented aspects of ourselves can easily be seen as long as we're willing to see through the lens of our center. Thank you for joining me. Keep up the great work.